I call this public meeting of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Welcome, everybody, to our October meeting. Do we have anybody wishing to address the board? Have one? All right. Come on in, Mr. Walker. I have something to read to you just as we get started. Thanks for coming tonight to share your opinion. A few rules of order regarding the public comments. According to board policy, each speaker has up to 3 minutes to speak. When necessary for effective meetings management or accommodate large numbers, we'll combine it. We have one speaker tonight. We have our board secretary, Donna Webb, who's going to keep the time. She's going to hold up some time cards just to show you the time you have remaining. The board may not ask or answer questions or make any comment regarding public comments not associated with posted agenda items. The board may respond with specific factual information or existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries on a posted agenda item. Please note that to comply with FERPA laws on student privacy, you may not mention a student by name. Accordingly, according to board policy, you may not make derogatory comments about any individual staff member, either by name or title. Should you need to file a complaint, you may do this through our former grievous process outlined in board policy. So welcome, Mr. Walker. Please, the floor is yours.
All right. First off, thank you for having me on this beautiful cold night. I want to start off by saying I hate these masks, and I'm sure everyone agrees with me. And that's the topic of my conversation, along with the online learning, but that's this little thing. Okay, first thing, I have several printouts. I'll gladly share them with everyone. That here's from the Daily Mail that no students have ever caught corona from a teacher. And another study that says a majority of the people who have caught corona have been wearing masks. And I have a whole CDC study for anyone who wants to read this whole thing. I'm more than willing to live with you. But all that aside, the problem I have is my stepson is in the marching band at Chisholm Trail, and we went to watch him perform, and we're sitting in the bleachers. I'm with my children, and we are social distance from everybody, and we're outside. There's an 8-mile-an-hour crosswind, and then I'm like, "Sir, you need to please put your mask on." I said, "Why?" "We're outside. We have crosswind. There's no danger of anything." The cheerleaders on the sideline, the football team, the coaches, the referees, nobody's wearing a mask except for the people in the stands. And school administration said, "We're here to protect the children." And I said, and I'm looking around, and here are kids that see each other every day. They're running up and hugging each other. And high fives and, pulling the mask down and giving side kisses and everything. And I'm looking at it, it's like, protect who? So I looked up UIL rules and Texas Education Association, and I looked up everything, and it says that if you're eating, you don't have to wear one, or as long as you can maintain a social distance of 6 feet, you don't have to wear one. So if I can maintain 6 feet, do I have to wear one? Now, real quick, since I have 50 seconds left, the online school. My stepson comes home every day and has 5 to 7 hours of homework a day he's a sophomore, and he's taking some pre-AP classes, and every single day is 5 to 7 hours of online homework. And he says, well, we have to treat the students in class the way they treat the students online. It's like, that can't be right. It's like, how can this make sense to anybody? But he says he does, and he shows me all his assignments that he has due the next day or within the next couple of days. And being in marching band, I know he doesn't have time because he has, practice a couple times a week. So I just wanted to bring that up to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You can leave those with Megan if you'd like to leave any copies that you brought with you.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Walker. right, we move to reports. The first is the finance report. Mr. Welch. Are you, Ebony, going to just join you up there, or who's, come on up?
Well, y'all are no stranger to the team from Purdue, Brandon, Fielder, Collins, and Locke, but they come and visit with us each year, and obviously this is my first opportunity to work with them here in Eagle Mountain, Saginaw, and wanted to let them come up and present tonight. We have Bruce Medley, who will take over the presentation here and provide an update on our tax collection process. Sir.
Chadwell, board.
Welcome.
My name is Bruce Medley, the managing partner of our office in Arlington. Sometimes calls me the senior partner, but I think that's just because of my age. But I'm here with the lead counsel for your district, Ebony, and the associate who's also working the account, David Garner. The report that I'm going to be talking to you about is mostly the numbers in terms of what money's been collected. Ebony will talk about details with regards to what we have been doing for the district. On to the second page of the report. I don't know if that's going to be going or not, but we have 4 charts in here, or do I do it from here? Oh, there we go. Okay. Looking at last year, the tax office typically does a very good job for y'all. They only turned 1% of the delinquents over to us for collection on July 1st of 2019, and of that amount, of today's date, we've collected 84% of that. Now, as to this year, they did an even better job. They turned over only 0.8% of the original levy to us for collection. And of that, as of the end of September, we have collected pretty much close to 40%. That is in line with prior years. We had a little bit of a bump last year, but 40% is online. It looks like we are going to be able to keep up with the normal collection amounts, even in this age of COVID. We've been very careful and sensitive to your property owners and to your taxpayers in terms of the filing of suits, or we've had a moratorium for quite a while on foreclosures to make sure that as agents for the district that we act firmly but humanely with all of your taxpayers. With regards to the litigation, I will turn it over to Evan.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for having us.
Welcome,
As Bruce told you, we are trying to be very sensitive to what's going on in our economy as well as the world right now. Just to give you a little perspective, for this year, we've only filed 22 suits. We're working really, really well with Mr. Welch to make sure that we approve everything, make sure that we're not going to do anything that would embarrass the district. We are not selling any property right now, particularly any homesteads. I think that kind of goes without saying why we would not want to do that right now. We're still managing to collect. We're having to get creative in the process of doing our jobs, but again, being sensitive and being humans first to make sure that we're being compassionate towards taxpayers that have lost their jobs and other things that have been going on in our economy. Bankruptcies have picked up quite a bit, unfortunately, because of the COVID, but they're not affecting your district whatsoever. Right now, currently, you only have 2.15% of your roll in bankruptcy, which is really, really good. Most of the bankruptcies that we're seeing are from major businesses that are not able to operate. For example, this morning, Studio Movie Grill did file bankruptcy. We anticipate that AMC will probably be right behind them. We've gone ahead, any airlines or airplane liens that would fall within Eagle Mountain Saginaw District, we've gone ahead and filed those liens preemptively, just in case there is a bankruptcy filing. Because usually the airlines file, if you don't have liens attached already, there's really not much you can do about it. But again, considering all financially, you're still in really good shape. We haven't really seen with your district at all the numbers go down or anything like that. So we anticipate being on track as far as our collections. But I think that it's probably safe to say through the rest of the year, we won't not be selling any property, particularly homesteads. I think that that's the right thing to do. So do you guys have any questions?
Well, will you keep us informed with that change? I know the times are changing, so to say, so I know we appreciate y'all coming in and giving us a report, but if there's something we need to be updated on, please reach out to Mr. Welch and Dr. Chadwell. And
I think the best thing probably at this point is just to keep giving you maybe a 30-day update on just how things are going with the district. We can provide just reports to you. The main thing I do want to watch is just the bankruptcy, and not just because, I mean, it is a problem. It just hasn't affected your district, thankfully.
we would want to know, I think, if those started, if you saw a rise in filings that would indicate this is going to be an issue going forward.
Yeah, I can provide a 30-day update on any filings that are in the district.
All right, thank you.
Just, okay.
Anybody else?
Any other questions?
Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for allowing us to keep good community property partners with you guys.
You bet.
Hi, Ebony.
Always a pleasure working with the team from Purdue Brandon. And as an update, we know Ebony Cobb, but it is now Ebony McCain. Congratulations.
Oh.
Congratulations.
So, again, thank y'all. We'll follow back up with our 30-day updates. We'll provide some information in your Friday updates.
That'd be great.
As we get it. Thank you very much.
All right, we're ready for the budget status.
I believe so. If y'all don't mind, I just want to give a few quick updates on a couple of budget topics here as we are early in the year. Not a whole lot of activity, but obviously there's some things that we're looking at very closely with this year. First area obviously is revenue, and we're looking at attendance or ADA. That's the primary piece or component of our revenue. This year, not unlike other districts, we've seen a lot of districts that have been challenged to reach the numbers that they were projecting in the way of enrollment and attendance. We are below our projected budgeted ADA right now in actuals, but we also are able to take advantage of the hold harmless that TEA has put in place, not for just the first 6 weeks, but I think we informed the board earlier that TEA has come back with a third 6 weeks of hold harmless on the ADA side. That's very beneficial for us because the projection that TEA used, utilizing our historic trends and a attendance rate that really was, or a growth rate that was a little more than what we were even projecting for this year, puts that hold harmless about 280 kids more than what we even budgeted on. So that's really going to help us as we look at the total across the year, when our first semester is about 280 students above what we budgeted. Then, and we're about the same short right now in actual ADA versus what we're budgeted. So 280 above on the first semester, 280 below on second semester. If everything stays the same, we think that we're going to average out about right. But one of the things that we're continuing to look at is we are seeing an increase of students coming back or adding or new students, let me put it that way. We're continuing to see those numbers increase week to week to week. So I think by the time we get to the second semester, I think numbers-wise, we'll be in good shape. But we're going to continue to monitor that, be very careful in the decisions that we make, and continue to be a little bit conservative, just because it's one of those years we don't know what to expect, and especially in the second semester with what might happen in the way of ADA. TEA has not indicated at this point that there'll be a hold harmless beyond the third 6 weeks for ADA, but we're, hopeful that as we're into flu season, we're hopeful that they will extend that hold harmless. So if they do, then we'll be in even better shape because, again, that hold harmless number for us right now is higher than what we.
Is there any
what we're
clawback
projecting.
to that? Can they come back and readjust it based on anything, or once they've held us harmless based on our growth trend, is that set in stone, for lack of a better term? Is that what they're gonna?
I don't see how they could come back and
Okay.
make that adjustment at this point. I think that they are being cautious in moving forward and projecting it any further. Like I said, they did the first 2 6 weeks, and then they came back and were gracious enough to add in that third 6 weeks. But I think that we'll see, I think other districts are going to continue to see the issues, that there might be some additional pressure for hold harmless, especially if we get to the spring and we get into flu season. I think it's going to impact some other districts significantly.
Go ahead.
I was just say, so how will we handle that going into the budget process for next year, especially if they do extend the hold harmless? What will that mean just from budgeting, and then also from, I think that would affect our fast growth status potentially?
So as looking into next year, that's one of those things, as we get into the spring, we'll be looking at our demographic projections and working with Bob Templeton, the demographer, obviously. That's, again, going to be the key piece. And we'll have, as each month goes along, we have more data to look at, but we'll probably, stay on a conservative approach into the following year if we don't see anything different in the way of.
But that could be flat.
It
In
could-
theory, if you had the two, if that's what you actually get versus what they projected we would have this year, so we would just put it in at flat, or?
We'll budget off actual. I mean, they may hold harmless based upon previous projections, but we'll base it off actual, so we'll have a more conservative approach to it. But in regards to fast growth schools, that's a really good question because that's affecting districts throughout the state. And of course, we're going into another session right now, and that's actually a legislative priority for a number of groups, including the North Texas Commission and also, of course, the Fast Growth Schools Coalition. So we're expecting that to be addressed and hopefully have some flexibility. We're also, Rob and I are working with the Equity Center, which has about 600 of the school districts in the state. And so we're hopeful that we'll be able to get some legislation to protect districts like ours that are growing. I noted today there was several stories are from around the state that large urban districts are losing 14% of their students. And of course, we're not in that situation, but even some others. So I think the hold harmless, if I had to predict, I could see them continuing that into the spring, at least for this year, because of the significant impact through the state on enrollment drops.
Yes, we're actually in a good shape compared to what I've seen with other districts. And so,
And that ADA count for that is remote learners having to log in at certain times to get
Yes, sir.
counted. And so the number he's given us is the ones that are logging in. Is there
Yes,
some
inclusive of that.
reason?
We are actually doing very well on that part of it. And I just want to say publicly, taking attendance is incredibly difficult in this system. And so teachers are having to be very diligent and are being very diligent at taking attendance. And so not only just for their, of course, in-person students, but remote students. And we're not finding that to be the issue. Our hold harmless is not needed for that. It's actually literally people that didn't come back this year. Maybe you have kindergartners that didn't start this year because the parents are going to keep them out for a year, or some of the younger kids. Our patterns seem to be more diffuse over the district rather than one grade level or one school. It just tends to be a little bit from every school.
We having to we had to find those kids that aren't in school, or, know that they transferred or that they homeschooled or went
Yes.
to. We still having to trace all those.
We are,
ones
and just to let y'all know, the way it's tracked at the secondary level is different than elementary. The state requires you to track at the secondary level. There's automatic leaver reports that are already generated. There's not for elementary, so we pull that data ourselves, and so I'm sure it's been happening today. I know we had a leadership meeting this morning, and Lisa Dunn with elementary principals, we have name by name calling and contacting and reaching out
Of who's not.
Of who's not here. Because just to let you know, if you go to another school, there's a system called T-Rex that tracks it. So if they go to another Texas public school, it's tracked. So these are students that are not going someplace else. They're either going to a private school in which they haven't requested records, or they're going homeschool, or from what I'm reading in the state, I hate to even believe this is true, but just not going to school at all, just stopping. There's been a number of people you've heard from throughout the state that are saying, I'm just going to stop until this is over. Well, it's not a good plan, obviously. I mean, this is not stopping in the
I'd be
near future.
interested when you have that, not the detail, but when you have aggregate that says, you know, it's X percentage that have, you know, gone to an online school, X percentage that are not going to school at all.
Sure.
When you have that, a Friday update would be fine, but I'd be curious
We
to
will.
see.
We will. That was our plan to do that. I was hoping to have, honestly, I was hoping to have it by now, that you would have already had that. Tracking some has been very arduous. We're not getting callbacks, email backs, letters back, so
That
we're.
would just be a big percentage that aren't
Yes,
going to
I'm
school.
trying not to give up on those yet. I'm trying to hope that, hold out a little bit, that they actually are going someplace. They just haven't responded to us, so.
And there was a hard date in October that we got a count. I don't know.
Yes, snapshot date.
We've had that for every year. We're gonna get that, whatever it is.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We will.
So
On to expenses, I guess.
on to expenses, yeah, so, and that's a piece that, you know, we continue to monitor that. We're not making, you know, large commitments that, you know, that are new or whatever else going forward. We're continuing to be conservative there, trying to keep our flexibility till we know what we're fully dealing with throughout the rest of the year. I mean, there's still some unknowns out there of what we're gonna need. We continue to acquire PPE and other needs, obviously. And so, you know, we're tracking our expenditures, we're projecting out, and just, again, if there's any updates there, we'll bring those back. But right now, it's just to monitor and see if there's anything that's shifting. And we haven't really seen any major shifts other than you know, the PPE side. We continue to acquire supplies and needs that are different than our normal year, so.
Utilities, are they running, have you noticed anything with utilities in the buildings? I guess they're all open now, so they.
Yeah, the
They're
utilities are, we haven't gotten all the bills in, but that's one of those areas that right now we're expecting those to just fall back in line with where we've been in the past. We, you know, obviously back to having a full student load, or not a full student load, but enough of a load that the utilities are basically running at regular levels.
What about substitute costs? How are we tracking?
Substitute cost? Well, substitutes that's an interesting topic from the standpoint of it is a challenge to get substitutes. Budget wise, we're probably spending about what we've been spending in the past, just because while we may have a higher need, the availability of subs is the challenge. And
So a
that's
couple
piece.
of facts, it's interesting, and Dr. Dawkins can feel free to say anything here. We actually have more subs, but our fill rate is slightly lower, even though we have less requests. So what we're seeing is we have more subs and we're adding subs every day, but they are actually working fewer days and responding to fewer requests to work. And so our fill rates, and we can also provide this information to y'all as well as we're tracking this, are not tracking with where they were last year, even though our pay has gone up. Again, we have more subs than we have had in the past. So we're continuing to aggressively recruit, and y'all probably seen some emails out to request parents and community members who are interested in subbing. So we're adding people, doing all the training ongoing. So we're, and we'll continue to do that. So we're not giving up on this. We're not accepting it all.
No.
We also made the decision to provide substitutes in those situations in which somebody has to be quarantined. They're not ill, but they're at home. And at that person's request, if they would, that teacher, if they would like to continue to work and teach remotely, we'll have a substitute in the classroom to coordinate, take attendance, monitor students. That's not required because the teacher has the choice not to do that if they're in quarantine. Most teachers want to continue to go ahead and work. So we're facilitating that through the sub. We'd be hiring a sub anyway, but the quarantine numbers are affecting, but we're not taking field trips. We're taking fewer athletic events, and so there's the offset between those two.
So will the report have unfilled subs per day or percentage or something?
It's broken down in an aggregate. It's a large percentage. It's
Okay.
got it. Yeah.
Thank you for the question, because that's been a focus that we've been spending a lot of energy on lately, and we know that's an area of focus by all means. So, as far as expenditures, like I said, we're just continuing to monitor and look at opportunities, and if there are areas that are spiking or adjustments that need to be made. The other area that I wanted to touch on was our bond refunding. The board, obviously, in the last board meeting, approved an order to refund a portion of the, I think they were 2013, 2015, 2015A refunding bond or bonds. And the market's given us a little window, and that's why we took advantage of the opportunity. Right now, we've gone through the process of building our preliminary official statement. We've met with our rating agencies, and then also done the due diligence, gone through and performed the due diligence with our bond underwriters. Rating agencies provided us, they affirmed our existing ratings. That's a Fitch, it's a AA minus, and with Moody's, the AA2 ratings. And so those have, even under COVID and other conditions, those have been able to be affirmed and at the stable level. So right now, we were prepared last week to go into the market. Come Monday, we saw some movement that was not necessarily favorable indicators for us at the time. Treasury started climbing up, and that would negatively affect our deal that we had proposed. So we have been monitoring that. Throughout the last week, it continued to go in the wrong direction versus looking for those indicators that were showing that would be turning around and reverting back in the direction we want. So at this point, even this week, it just doesn't look like it's going to make sense. But we figure once we get past the election, we'll probably see things. And historically, that's what's happened with the presidential election. You may have some opportunities and some spiking in each direction right before the presidential election, but then after the election, it will level back out. So we're hoping that that's what we'll see. And so at this point, we're waiting for the market to give us some good indicators before we plug a date. We're usually 2 or 3 days out of making that decision. We could essentially, if we need to, jump into it the next day. But we think there's a lot more value, especially in a negotiated sale, to have that opportunity to have an extra day to reach out to buyers and line some things up before we actually go into the marketing process. So,
We can move quickly, though. We're all set up, ready to go, and
yes,
the opportunity to present it itself, when you need 2 to 3 days, that's what I'm hearing that you would like to.
yes,
That's how long it would take to actually enter the market and sell the bonds.
yes, sir. That
Okay.
is correct. We could probably do it. We could do it in a day, but we just don't think it'd be as successful as setting it about 2 days out.
And just to note, last week, we could have gone out and would have met the parameters order. It wasn't that we're beyond the parameters order. It's that our financial advisor feels like better numbers are coming, so there's no reason to push that. So just want to let y'all know, we're not beyond savings. I think we were looking at a hopeful of a 10.5, and then it dropped to about 9.5, and then dropped to about 9.1. And so we want it to get back up higher than, at or above the 9.5 that would be available.
One more question on the routine report that's back here. I'm going to jump back there just since you're there. That's the end of the year, right? So that report that was back in the routine covered the whole fiscal year.
Yes, sir, it does. There's still a few
There's still some-
accruals that in closing with the, prior to audit, there's still a few things. Obviously, we haven't completely gotten through the accrual period that usually runs through October and capturing various items that really should be charged back into next year. But we usually capture those as they run out into October. So we still have some items that are not, not captured yet, just because of the run out process and those final adjustments.
Okay.
But
Because it's projecting, I think, 8 million to the fund balance. Do I remember that right?
That should be about right, yes, sir.
And then that's going to be adjusted though some, right?
Yes,
That's not the final number, but
that's not the final number,
Okay.
but that gives a pretty good indication that we do expect to be putting some, building some money into fund balance. And some of that is, we have some, at year end, we have some large expenses, some of it tied to the PPE purchases. And it becomes a question of can we expense them during that time, or do they have to go into inventory and go on the balance sheet? And so if we expense them and show that they were utilized or distributed and utilized as of 8/31, then they get charged into 8/31. Otherwise, they could roll forward and get charged against the budget here in the new fiscal year. So we have a few items like that. Few things that happened, like we had iPads. We had a large purchase of iPads that did not come in. They're expected to come in before 8/31, and like every other Apple order in the state, they came in about a week or 2 weeks later, so they fell into the new fiscal year. So what we're doing, we'll see some savings in the budget in 1920 that's going to go into fund balance. But then ultimately we'll end up having, that money will be utilized in the current year for some of those big items tied into COVID and the adjustments. So just
don't get too excited about that whole 8 million yet.
Okay. Over the course of, both years, if we look across the 2-year window, we should be still increasing fund balance and working to stay at that 90-day target that our financial, our rating agencies and everybody else and bondholders, like. But it may be split a little bit differently. We're still working out how that's going to shape out as we
I didn't
close out
consider
this.
this report then probably the year end that just ended 8/31. Did the rating agency, when they gave us that rating, were they looking at any of those numbers or just past performance?
We gave them a little glimpse of being able to put money into fund balance, and then they asked obviously about the year going forward. And we talked about over the 2-year window, we should still be putting money into fund balance
Just curious.
which is appropriate for us continuing to grow, and obviously our budget grows as our district grows, maintaining that fund balance at the level. It takes a little bit each year. We got to put a little bit back in it to maintain that level. So, and we expect to do that. That still remains a goal and target for the administration.
And just to know that although Moody's during the rating call did mention that they felt like that although we're above the 90-day mark, and we felt like we're in really good position moving forward, they did mention that that is something that they are looking very closely at, even though they did reaffirm. I have to tell you that surprised me, especially since that 90-day mark is something that is looked at by the TEA first report, and we felt like we were in a very good position there, but they were really talking about us in comparison to other districts and what the mean number of days districts have, not really something that the state looks at. So they're measuring us by something different. Then a few days later, I was at a legislative meeting in which Chairman Huberty talked about fund balances and specifically looking at that as something that they're going to look at in the next session, which makes me nervous because the likelihood of trying to offset state support with saying use your own fund balance. And I want to mention this now because we all know we don't believe we're the community savings account. We feel like that this is an operational account. It's not, and we had to reframe this. We said this is not a rainy day fund. This is an operational savings account. We use this for cash flow, and we use this also to manage everything to do with the district in terms of the long-term debt service. So we feel like we're in a good position. We'll maintain that, but we are very worried about the next session that they would try to go after school districts' fund balances, which essentially is going after people's locally. And so that's just something to know that you may hear about that.
And there would also, I guess, be an argument to try not to run anything through fund balance that we don't have to, so we could figure out how to charge this stuff back and follow accounting rules. That would probably be wise.
Okay, absolutely.
Well, we could always spend it, so.
Yeah.
That's the rumor. I would think that's what school districts would do.
Well, and like for us, the danger, we spend it and then we could actually drop our underlying rating. Because then we're not holding enough fund balance. We're actually, we're at a really good number. We've worked on that for a number of years to do that. What's happened is some districts have grown some very significant fund balances. So the way you see that is when a district says they're running a deficit of a double-digit deficit of $25 million. And you're like, how do they do that? Well, they may have built that up and then they're going to spend 2 or 3 years. Y'all don't do that. Y'all are very careful. Y'all look 10 years out, but you also make decisions 1, 2 years out. You don't overextend yourself in hopes that something will happen. We're much more conservative in the way we handle that in our forecasting. So I much rather be in that environment. I don't understand the other. To me, the other's built on hopes and wishes, and ours is built on numbers. So I think we're a lot more steady in the way we handle this.
All right, thank you, Mr. Welch.
Thank you.
Mr. Rob Welch, now Mr. Cleet Welch. Construction update.
Appreciate it.
You bet. Welcome, Cleet.
Glad to be here. Just looking at some construction pictures, so it's all, the ones I'll show you today are all dry. This week, we're gonna lose a little bit of time, but we've had a really good 2 months of good construction weather. So we'll start with Boswell High School, just looking at, this is where the new field house, weight room area will be located. You can see the Newcomb Gym to the bottom left over there by the, some of the machinery. Those are beams that have been poured. Then the closer one, the top right, you also see that that's a fresh dug area out, and that's where they'll put those beams have already been poured, and that goes right up next to the old original field house of Boswell High School. So it did rain on Friday morning, but these beams in this area did get poured, so we were able to we didn't lose any time on that project at Boswell. Boswell's about to jump into the next phase, and that's going to be the stadium. So they're currently right now underway of cleaning everything out of that press box. And so starting November the 2nd through November the 20th, the main field will be off limits as they pull down the lights, the stadium on the west side and the press box. So just for safety issues, it'll be out of commission there for about 3 weeks. So we got a lot of pictures on Lake Country. So when you think about Lake Country, this construction schedule is 12 months versus 16, which is what we had for Copper Creek. So we're always trying to make up time. So we got to make up 4 months. So every 4 months, we need to make a month. So we're 4 months into it and we've made a month up. So we feel like we're moving in that path, and we'll keep pushing forward. Just want to give you an idea of what a structural slab, you've heard me talk about boxes and things. Well, that's what the slab rests on. That's the cardboard box, and that's what supports it before it sets up and all the rebar. The one on the right, you can see the workers are actually walking on it. They put this cardboard sheathing down before all the rebar comes into place. But it's, and after about 10 years, this will just disintegrate. So it becomes just an open cavity for the earth to move up and down. And then there's the iron busters, rod busters. They're all, just amazing how fast they can work with 40 of them at once. There's close to 600 yards poured in this first pour. We did go vertical in the ICF area in the kitchen, and you can see that's a hallway with the rebar in between the CMU blocks. That's the firewall, the 2-hour fire rated wall that they're working on. And this is the large concrete pour we had last week, actually 2 weeks ago, sorry. And that was 2 weeks Friday, and that's the yellow area. And then we had because of the rain, they moved up the schedule and we poured the rest of the area. So when you look at it, the only thing left now is the gym. The area to the north and the area to the west have already been poured. So we made up time. Instead of, if we'd have got caught by the rain, we'd have probably lost 3 weeks because they had to start over on that area. So we're pretty pleased with the progress we're making there. Just the finished concrete workers, you know, it takes around 10 hours before they all get completed. And then the dirt work, in fact, the last pour came in from the Lake Country Drive area, so they've been grading that off, and that's more going to become the construction entrance. That's the one on the bottom left. Down closer to the pond, you can see this is the massive retaining wall. So all that land, all that dirt has been scraped down. Now we're going to build a retaining wall, and they'll backfill it. But in some places, it's going to be up to 8 to 9 feet. And of course, they'll have a fence on top of it. But you can see how much massive they had to go down to bedrock in this one area because that supports the detention pond that we'll have in this area. The next area is the maintenance facility. It did get caught by the rain, so we did lose some time on it. So it's going to have to dry out. It does have the beams in place, but we were getting ready for the slab, but we were not able to make it on this one. This was not as time sensitive, but we'll keep watching this to make sure we stay on schedule. And just some other things that are going on with the security upgrades, kind of moving into phase 2, and the hardware has been ordered. The cable has been tested at Watson, Elkins, and Willow Creek Elementary. The central office complex is on the street for the CSP and the bidding process, so that will come to the board in December for your consideration, the name of the general contractor. And the Eagle Mountain High School site is still under design and development, so we've been meeting with different groups in departmental areas, getting their input, things that work for them at Chisholm Trail, and things that we could probably try to improve on. So we did our first round of that. We'll work on that and then get it back to them, see if what they told us is what we were able to provide, and see if we can get to a good compromise if we couldn't. And then we continue to work on the Wayside Middle School development. So it's, it's probably on 15 acres now, and we have right at 30 acres here. So try to, what we can do, maximize the site with the constraints that we have with that. One of them being trying to keep Wayside in school while we build the new one, whenever it's time that we decide to move forward with this project. But we'll be ready when that happens. Any questions about the construction? I went pretty fast. But.
Thank you, Clete.
Okay. Dwayne's coming in here.
Yeah, the next operation report is Mr. Dwayne Jones, the Lake Country Elementary attendance zone. We got the school bill. Now we need to get some kids in it.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see everybody. Here tonight to just give you a quick update on the process has started for us to set the attendance zones for Lake Country Elementary School. The process is mainly the same with a few minor tweaks simply because of COVID. Historically, we've pretty much done at least one meeting for residents to come and we give a presentation and then they're able to ask questions or provide feedback. So due to the current circumstances, we are we're finalizing an electronic presentation. And that'll be made available by this Thursday. And we're going to put that out on our website for people to go and view as often or whenever they want. And then they'll be able to provide feedback and also ask questions through Let's Talk, or they can just send questions directly to me, or whichever they choose. But all of those things will be available to them. So once we gather all of the feedback and all of the questions, then we'll put together an FAQ and we'll make that available also on the website for others to be able to access and review whenever they choose. The rest of the process will come back in November and give you guys an update as far as what feedback and questions that we did have from the presentation. And then December meeting, we'll come back again and present a recommendation to you for approval. So hopefully, any tweaking that needed to be done, we'll get done between November and the December meeting. So that's pretty much the process that we're doing right now. So If you have any questions, I can,
You said there's going to be a communication on the website. There'll be a push communication too, right, for everybody that is affected, because they might not know to go look on the website, right? You'll do some sort of a direct.
yes, yeah. we
It's on.
can do that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Anything else?
No? Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Awesome, thank you.
Next is our Education Services Report. The first one is the 2020-2021 Saginaw Police Department Memorandum of Understanding. Dr. Parker.
Thank you. It's my privilege, board members, to be here tonight to go over the MOU with both Saginaw and Fort Worth Police Departments. The first one on page 29 is the Saginaw Police Department MOU with EMSISD. The Saginaw Police Department will provide one school resource officer, otherwise known as the SRO, at Saginaw High School, Highland Middle School, and Wayside Middle School. Additionally, the city works with us to continue to provide crossing guards at Bryson, High Country, and Saginaw Elementary Schools. As well, they do provide a crossing guard for Basswood, which is at High Country as well. The proposed total cost to the district to have these SROs and the supervising sergeant is $162,710.83. This cost includes half the salaries for the 3 SROs, half the cost for the 4 crossing guards, and 10% of the supervising sergeant's annual salary. This is an increase of $1,344.51 from the 2019-2020 school year. In your packet, you have the cost comparison form as well as the MOU. Do I have any questions? Okay.
And on to Fort Worth.
On to Fort Worth. The Fort Worth MOU is on page 38 of the board packet. Currently, the district utilizes 6 Fort Worth resource officers at Boswell High School, Chisholm Trail High School, Creekview Middle School, Prairie Vista Middle School, Ed Wilkie Middle School, and Marine Creek Middle School. We began working last year with Fort Worth Police Department and requested an additional SRO. That took about a year, but we've requested one for Watson High School, who will also serve to support other SROs like a floater when we have an absence or we have a need, similar to what we had last year at some of our elementary campuses. The increase that you see reported here is $176,131.08. This includes this additional officer, which we are required to pay at 100%, as well as increased costs of the services. In your information, you have the cost comparison to last year. You have the cost sheet as well as the interlocal agreement. This is an increase over last year of 25%. Any questions?
What makes them classify them as a 50% versus 100%?
I'm going to be honest, I have no idea,
know
and
the
I tried. Do you know?
Yes.
Okay,
It has
thank
to do if it is with a traditional secondary school, and since that is an alternative high school, it does, they charge 100% for it. So a traditional.
So that's why there's just that case in Eagle Mountain and Keller?
Keller.
And Keller,
Correct.
thank you. And I'm glad you knew that. I'm learning a lot about safety and security, and I did not know the answer to that. But yes, so that explains the Keller, because I kept looking and trying to find a connection, because if you look at the report, I believe it's the most in the area is at Northwest ISD, but they don't have one, they're paying 100%. Their MOU is a little different in that we pay a straight 10% of the commanding SRO of Saginaw, and it's a little different with Fort Worth. They get a little more money.
Anything else? All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
Dr. Parker.
Thank you.
Next Education Service Report is report on the new courses for the middle school and high schools. Dr. Barnes, welcome.
Thank you so much. I wanted to go over the new courses that we are recommending for the 21-22 school year. Due to just everything that is occurring this year, we wanted to keep the list to only the ones that we felt were the most necessary, and also due to some new partnerships. So you will see that the first one is a state course that would not require any additional FTEs, but would continue with our current ESOL program. The next two, we are very excited about. Dana Eldridge has developed a partnership with the independent electrical contractors of Fort Worth, Tarrant County. And due to this partnership, they are willing to come in and actually set up our classrooms for us to begin electrical technology at our HCTC. And that is a wonderful opportunity for our students. And we are excited to hopefully be able to move that forward. And then the last one is we are, again, very hopeful to be able to begin our practicum for cosmetology for next year as well. So any questions over the new courses?
So when they take the ESOL class, they do those, okay, so they're just.
Yes, ma'am, they would be stacked in that classroom. And the ELDA, we are already providing those TEKs right now, but we will be able to then have that additional course in correlation with the ESOL as well. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right, on to school calendar for 2021, 2022.
Very fortunate to be able to continue working on our school calendar for this coming school year. You will see the timeline on page 57 in your board book. The only difference that you are going to see this year is that we are pushing back the approval of the school calendar by 1 month. And the reason being is because we are just very closely watching the state due to COVID and the impact that it is having on school districts. And so what we do not want to do is to build a calendar and put it forward to the community and then the state come back and make some recommendations. So with your support, again, that would be the only change concerning the timeline of the calendar, is that we will be bringing it to you to review in December and for consideration in January.
Still going through the same process, it appears, with DPAC and Israel.
Yes. And I have actually already met with a parent, administrator, and business leader committee to be able to explain the school calendar. And as it tends to be each year, is people just being able to understand the process, that it's not just putting holidays on a calendar. It is a very logistical, tedious process when you're also dealing with 75,600 minutes that you're putting into a calendar. So, but it was a great, wonderful meeting.
Good to hear. All right, you're up for another pre-advanced placement update.
Yes, sir. I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about some information that we have learned over the last couple of years, but have definitely come to fruition, is that College Board, who runs the advanced placement curriculum and programs throughout the United States and then some, they have begun a new program called Pre-AP for All. And what they are requesting is that if you continue with the Pre-AP format, that all of your on-level courses would be named Pre-AP and follow the College Board assessments, framework, and so forth. If we choose to participate in that program, there is a cost, but then again, we would be required to where any student who wanted just to take an on-level course would now be into a Pre-AP course. If we choose not to participate in that, we would no longer be allowed to use the Pre-AP name. Pre-AP name was actually developed by local school districts throughout the nation.
That's my question. I don't understand how they take claim to it.
Yeah, College Board, since their beginning, focused very strongly on advanced placement. It was the local school systems, again, across the nation, that came up with a Pre-AP term. And basically, it was to allow for the alignment, starting at the secondary campuses, to get students ready for advanced placement. When I was growing up, it was called honors. When later on, it was many school districts called it advanced. And then it just kind of came up with pre-AP, so pre-advanced placement. At this point in time, after reviewing the requirements of the College Board, we feel very, very strongly that our students should have a choice to be able to take classes that are rigorous from a college preparatory standpoint, for them to best equip for their post-education goals. That being said, it is our recommendation that we do not follow the College Board's pre-AP for all program, but that we continue to do our same practice that we have been doing, where the curriculum is still written by our amazing curriculum coordinators and teacher partnerships. It would still be considered a level 2 class, which gives it the additional 5 points on the weight. And again, provides an open enrollment philosophy where students can choose if they want to participate in this or not. Because the reality of it is that a pre-AP advanced placement curriculum, it requires a significant more amount of time outside of school hours. And students should be able to have the choice if they want to participate in that or not. So our recommendation, again, we would not follow the College Board pre-AP for all program. We would still continue advanced placement. Nothing changes with that. But at our current pre-AP courses, it would just be a title change. And we are requesting to go to the title of advanced. So again, curriculum would stay the same in the sense of our current practice of us writing it. We still update it each year to match the TEKS and the rigor of the suggested frameworks. And again, the weight towards a GPA would still remain the same as well. So once again, it would be title and title only. So instead of seeing a pre-AP world geography, pre-AP humanities, in any of that, you would just now see advanced world geo, advanced algebra, so forth.
And talking about this and talking to other school districts, every local district that we know of right now is moving away from pre-AP. They're either going to call it advanced or honors, and there's a mix of those two. And having been in a system in which we called it honors when I first started teaching, it was actually very confusing for people because college honors programs are a specific process, and this was like a class. And so we really felt like advanced was a better descriptor of that. I actually don't know what districts could actually do this unless they were a private school in which you have certain floors that you have to be at an academic level to do this, because the reality is you could have a child very, very strong, even gifted in the content area, where they're going to go pre-AP, AP, or Tarrant County College classes, on ramps, you know, all these advanced classes. But in another class, they just may not be as strong and they don't want to pursue that and they want to choose. And we actually encourage students to be, and parents to be careful about not overloading themselves with all AP as a result, or in this case, pre-AP. So just it's really kind of surprising that they're banking on this. And when I first heard it, I actually didn't believe it. I was like, they're about to destroy their own pre-AP program.
I had to do a lot of research.
Have we checked on the legality? Can they force us not to use pre-AP? I mean,
Well,
do they have a
Well,
copyright on the
they
name?
have now copyrighted the name
Even though it was
pre-AP.
commonplace they didn't come up with it in
Well,
its common
but it's
usage? I'm
based on-
surprised that they
It's
would have
based
been
on
able
a
to get it.
copyrighted word of advanced placement. So and I assume that they probably checked into their own legalities of that, but they have copyrighted it now. They've been talking about this for years, but this pre-AP for all is relatively
That was a new one.
in the last 6 months.
Because I do think it's easier for parents and kids to understand,
Yes.
if you're going the AP track, take the pre-AP course, then take the advanced course. I mean,
It is.
Yeah, so.
Before we changed it, I just want to make sure we know we have to. legally.
If and when this occurs, we're going to have to really, really explain with great clarity that we're not changing the rigor levels and why. The same presentation you're getting, we're going to have to go to great detail because people know what pre-AP into AP means. They know that route, they understand it, and now all of a sudden it's disrupted and we're gonna have to re-explain it.
And that's just where it is critical, is we are not getting rid of our current practices that as of today are called pre-AP. We are continuing that. And something else I would like to say as well is, in this district, we are so fortunate to be able to provide choice for our students. They can choose if they want to go trade, university, arts, engineering. They have that ability and that choice. And because, again, our amazing curriculum coordinators in partnership with our amazing teachers have written our curriculum documents that no matter what a child decides, if they change their mind, we have the ability for a child to be able to go into a new pattern of courses. And so that is one thing. And again, we want to keep that same philosophy. We do not want to force students into classes that they are just not interested in. And so again, I cannot thank y'all enough for giving me the opportunity to work with amazing curriculum coordinators and being able to partner with teachers with writing all of our curriculum.
Thank you, Dr. Barnes.
Thank you.
Before allow me, we're going to move to report, and I know it's right at 6. E, Human Resources Student Services Report. It's a student transfer report. Ms. Turrentine, we're going to give you a chance to make your presentation at 5 instead of having to come back at 7. So,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
Thank you
Welcome.
so much for that opportunity.
Uh-huh.
I want to start out by giving you a little bit of background when it comes down to transfers. Last school year, the transfer window opened up, and I'm only talking for the fall. It opened up in March, and it closed at the end of May. And so we had an opportunity during that time in July to review and to consider all the transfers. Parents would get notifications somewhere probably about mid-July. In listening to stakeholders' input came from student services, HR, operations, parents, and employees. That late time frame kind of put people in a disadvantage because they were getting it so late. So what we decided to do was we moved the transfer window up. So this particular window opened on January the 13th, and we left it open until the end of February 28th. That would give us time to review all of our transfers and then get an opportunity to get parents' notifications by mid-March. We were able to do that. We met that guideline and we got that done by spring break. Unfortunately, COVID hits. And so therefore, what we decided to provide sensitivity, we allowed late transfers all the way up until maybe about June 1st, I would like to say. And so therefore, totally this transfer window, we were able to take in a total of 500 and I think about 44. Of that, 181 were late. And so again, showing that sensitivity to number one, to COVID-19, and also two, that we did move up our transfer window in order to make sure that we have staffing allocations, make sure that we had great facility capability. So with that being said, we were still able to, with our high schools, a secondary be able to meet 95% approval of those transfers, and I believe in elementary it was 97% of the transfers we were able to provide approval for. Do you have any questions?
The Creekview number jumped out at me.
Mhm.
Could you explain why that was statistically different?
Well, Creekview, there were two campuses that really had an enormous amount of interest in transfers. That was Dozier, and it was also Creekview. Creekview has been the campus, one of our middle school campuses that has always had great interest. And so unfortunately, we were not able, those two campuses, we were not able to provide approval for all of those due to information received from Mr. Cleek Welch about projected growth and projected student enrollment.
Thank
you. Any other questions?
Any other questions on the transfer policy? Thank you.
Thank you.
It is currently 6:05 p.m. on October the 26th, 2020. This board will now recess for dinner and then reconvene in a closed meeting pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act. 551.071, consultation with board's attorney. 551.072, deliberating the purchase or exchange of real property. 551.074, purpose of deliberating the employment, reassignment of duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public office or employee. 551.075, for the purpose of deliberations regarding the deployment or anything to do with security. 551.082, to consider the discipline of a public school child or complaint or charge against the personnel. And 551.0821, to discuss specific personal identifying information about a student. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District. The board is reconvening the public meeting on October 26, 2020 at 7 p.m. and will now consider the subject set forth in the posted agenda. Welcome again, leadership team. Good to see everybody for our October meeting. We do have opening ceremonies, and I'm going to call on Dr. Jim Chadwick.
Yes, sir. We have students from Gilliland Elementary School that'll be coming on here in just a moment, but I want to introduce them. We have Melanie Mosqueda, who's in 4th grade. She enjoys tap dance and church activities. Her parents are Linda and Annie Mosqueda. And also have interest in drawing and reading, and also she likes bunnies. Okay. Andrew Snodgrass, he's 3rd grade. His parents are Clay Kennedy and Holly Stewart. He likes to play with friends, play cars, Legos, and watches the Power Rangers. And the next student is Bella Bowman. She's in 3rd grade. Her parents are Ryan Bowman and Raquel Villa. She likes to ride her bike, gymnastics, and praying with mom in the mornings. Oh, nice. And then finally, Eli Vargas, he's in 4th grade. His parents are Lacey and Chris Vargas. He likes baseball, and reading and playing with his sister and brother. So without further ado, the students from Gilliland Elementary School.
Good evening, Dr. Chadwell and Board of Trustees. I'm Christy Thaler. I'm the principal here at Gilliland Elementary, and I have the wonderful opportunity to introduce you to some Gilliland students. These students are top Eagle winners for the month of October, which means they have demonstrated our Eagle expectations and are soaring to excellence. Here to help me is Miss Cardona.
Hi, my name is Adriana Cardona. I'm the assistant principal here at Gilliland Elementary. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to come back to my home campus, and I'll go ahead and give it on to one of our top Eagles, Bella.
Hi everyone, my name is Bella. I'm in 3rd grade in Ms. Zayad's class.
Hi, my name is Andrew Snodgrass. I'm in Ms. Guthrie's 3rd grade class.
Hi, my name is Eli. I'm in Mr. Lawson's 4th grade class.
Hi, my name is Melanie, and I'm in 4th grade in Ms. Verduzco's class.
Please stand for our pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for the Texas pledge.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Now for a moment of silence.
Okay, help me out, guys. One school.
One team. Go Eagles!
Thank y'all for bringing that back. It's a great part of our meeting. We move now to some special recognitions, and I'm going to call on Megan Oberman and Allie Surface. Welcome, Allie. Welcome, Megan.
Good evening. Allie Surface, our Education Foundation Director and Education Foundation and Community Partnerships, and I would like to recognize a leader in the district through our work with TASB Businesses Supporting Public Schools Initiative. Allie?
Okay. Gary Austin grew up in West Virginia and received his Bachelor's of Science in Biology from Duke University. He served for 20 years as a naval aviator, retiring with the rank of commander. Thank you for your service, Gary. We are lucky to have he and his wife Kelly with us tonight, and their 3 sons, Joshua, Nicholas, and Zachary, settling in Saginaw, Texas in 2009 as the store manager for Saginaw's Walmart. Gary is a longtime supporter of Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District. He cares deeply about the community he serves through his committed work and volunteerism. And for over a decade, he's given countless hours of that volunteerism to our district. He served as the chairman of the board for EMS Education Foundation, and as well as other elected positions within that program that benefit students and teachers. He is instrumental in presenting awards to teachers for their 21st Century Learning Grant and educational grants. Those grants raise standards for students in the classroom, and they inspire innovative teaching concepts. In the last 12 years, Walmart has supported a variety of EMS ISD booster clubs and nonprofits within our district. They have donated over $175,000 to those causes and countless in-kind gifts, including school supplies for our students and some of our students that are most vulnerable. Gary, your commitment to serve is important in so many ways, and it's an honor to recognize the impact of your work through supporting public schools in a meaningful way. Will you and Kelly join me here as Megan reads your state level award?
If you know Gary, you know he probably doesn't want to be here, but so very deserving of recognition tonight. Here at EMS ISD, we know the value of the help that we've received from Walmart, and we are deeply appreciative of this partnership. The Texas Association of School Boards joins us with honor of your valuable support for our schools. We'd like to present this recognition to you in grateful appreciation for all you've done for EMS ISD. We hope that you continue to your work to stand up for public schools, and through this honor that you are able to encourage others to join with you in your support. So you'll have please accept this lapel pin, fancy lapel pin that you get to wear. Wear it proudly to announce your recognition of this prestigious award of service to our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gary, before you go, I'd just like to take a moment just to thank you. Gary is one of the first people I met when I came into the district, and from the very moment I met him, I just really greatly appreciated his dedication, not only to the Education Foundation, who he was a member of and served in many different capacities there, but also just as a member of this community that wants what's best for our community, and he wants to be here. From many conversations we've had, you know, Walmart's a huge organization. He could be many places, but he's right here in Saginaw, Texas, serving the people in our community. He has an incredibly hard job. There is no Christmas, no Thanksgiving, no time in which we're enjoying the niceties of those holidays that he's not making sure there's enough cranberries and all kinds of things. But also, as he shared with me, the incredible efficiencies that they put in, it's really inspired me personally as how we can be better as a school district from learning from our business partners. But he's also a person, only a couple of years ago, we had a challenge with our back to school bash and had some budget deficits there that happened at the last minute with some situations. And I called him, and about a 30-second phone call turned into a significant amount of support to provide backpacks and support for people. And he did that because that's the kind of person he is. And so he didn't expect to thank you. He didn't expect this, but that means you deserve it anymore. So Gary, just a privilege to know you and call you a friend, and thank you for all you do for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Allie, for bringing that presentation, and Megan. Next special introduction is Operations Department, Mr. Cleet Welch.
There he is.
Tonight, I'd like to introduce officially Billy Kidd. He's our Director of Bond Planning and Construction. He's been with us since March. So it's been a while since we've had this meeting here, so we finally got to introduce him officially. He comes up to us from Keller ISD. He's been over there for 14 years working with their bond program. He's got over 20 years experience in school education. He got his teaching certificate in, secondary basic business. And he's been a great asset for us already, and it's tremendous help, and just the added expertise and extra set of eyes, and I'm just glad to have him, and he's doing us an excellent job. So, Bill, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, Clete. Members of the board, Dr. Chadwell, I really want to extend my appreciation to Clete and Dr. Chadwell and the district for having me here. I've been here 6 months and haven't met very many people. I know a lot of names, but not very many faces, and I still don't know many faces. But I'm thrilled to be here. I love the projects that we have going on. I think they're going real successfully, and mainly because of Clete's leadership, and I will sure do my very best effort to pick up that slack and continue to move forward with it, and provide y'all with a lot of great projects and products. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for the tour at Lake Country that day, by the way. Billy filled in for Clete. Yeah, you bet. Next, Education Services Department, Dr. Parker.
Thank you. Board members, it's always exciting to introduce a new leader. With us tonight is a new assistant principal at Ed Wilkie Middle School. Come on in, Cindy Moylan. With her, joining her tonight is her family. You can come up here. This is Cindy Moylan. She is holds her bachelor's degree from Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She got to Texas as soon as she could, where she started working for us. During that time, she's received her Master's of Education from Towson State University and her principal certification from Lamar University. She has 17 years of public education. She's worked as a teacher. She's an avid site coordinator and has been a coach. And we are so blessed to have her now at Ed Wilkie Middle School. Joining her tonight is her husband, Blake, who is a football coach in Western Hills, where he gets to coach his son, RJ. And Abby is one of our Prairie Vista Coyotes. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here, and congratulations.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for keeping the speech short. I told her she's got to make a speech, but to please keep it under 5 minutes. And I could see the panic in her eyes. All right, that takes us through special introductions and into action items. The first is the 2020-2021 Board Naming Committee. I don't remember if this requires a motion. However, the Board Naming Committee that has agreed to serve is Tim Daughtry, Paige Ring, and Liz Hatley. So the recommendation would be to approve that naming committee of Tim Daughtry, Paige Ring, and Liz Hatley.
I move we approve the naming committee as presented.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Donna, second by Marilyn. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have the 2020 to approve the 2021 legislative priorities. They've been submitted and discussed in the past, and they are on page 94 in the board book. Dr. Chadwell.
Yes, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I don't believe there were any recommendations for changes of what was provided to you in September. If there was any questions or any clarifications I can provide, I certainly will do so.
I make a motion to approve the 2021 legislative priorities as presented.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Donna to approve the legislative priorities presented. Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. Next is to consider the adoption of the local policies contained within the revised district policy manual. That was the really thick thing in your board packet as prepared by TASB Policy Services. Yes, come tell us about it, Ms. White. Dr. Dawkins.
So you received the final revisions to the policy review session
that we had in April. They were sent to you prior to tonight's meeting, and TASB has now sent us a proposed new manual with all the changes from TASB 115 as well as the policy review session. Our recommendation is for you to adopt the local policies contained within the revised district's localized policy manual as prepared by TASB Policy Services.
Second. Effective October 26, 2020. We need to add that.
We can add that in, yes. The motion is to go with the recommendation of administration that the board adopt the local policies contained within the revised district localized policy manual as prepared by TASB Policy Services effective October 26, 2020. The motion was by Liz and the second by Marilyn. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you for all the work on that. Next is consider the acceptance of donation of playground equipment from Greenfield Elementary School.
I make a motion to accept the donation of a 20-foot Gaga pit ball game and a Gaga pit ADA Gaga
Gate.
Excuse me, had a little drop of something in my eye there. From Greenfield Elementary PTA for use at Greenfield Elementary.
Second.
Just to hear Tim read that was.
I know.
Gaga. Motion by Tim, second by Donna. Questions on the Gaga pit? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. Next is consider the acceptance of a monetary donation to the Saginaw High School volleyball program. Welch is just waiting for a motion. There we go.
Accept the monetary donation of $10,000 to the Saginaw High School volleyball program from Riveron Consulting LLC.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Donna. Any questions on that donation? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Kim Densmore for the Greenfield PTA and also the Riverton Company Consulting to provide support for the Saginaw volleyball team. Both of those individuals and organizations reaching out to provide support. We're very thankful for them in doing so.
All right, thank you, Dr. Chadwell, for slowing me down on that. That's a good catch. The next is to ratify the purchases of the COVID-related expenses. Mr. Welch.
I make a motion to approve and ratify cumulative purchases for COVID-related needs from first to the finish in the amount of $211,300 and Solo Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $262,983.17.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Donna to ratify the purchases. Any questions on that? Nope. All those. None. 7-0. Motion carries 7-0. Got ahead of myself again. All right, that brings us back to reports uncompleted, and the only report that we have remaining is from Kurt Murdoch. So I'm going to take you back in your book to page 65.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you all for letting me do the update tonight. Okay, the last time I did this report was in February, and we were talking about starting the second round of our technology plan cycle and the possibility of maybe expanding it a little bit, getting a few more devices for kids and some of those kind of things. And then we left for spring break, and then I came to y'all right after spring break and said, we need a lot of devices for kids. And so a lot of things have happened, and just in an effort of trying to narrow this down, I broke it down into two different groups. One was remote instruction, and the other one was the services and network improvements that have gone on in the last several months. I'm not going to go through all of this that has kind of occurred, but we were able to provide devices to students that I wouldn't have dreamed of being able to do, and that's because of you guys right here approving the purchases and allowing us to do the best thing that we could for our kids on really short notice. And we've really benefited from that. And then our team stepped up and did some pretty amazing things. Our instructional technology team, led by our instructional technology director, Cindy Tucker, seemed to create miracles on a daily basis with our team. Changing all of our teachers over to full remote instruction in 2 days was amazing. And the fact that our teachers had the ability and the persistence to do it was another amazing thing, that the culture of this district was able to just get it done and did the best thing they could for their kids. Our support team, led by Mike Arley and Rhonda Tarbell, did amazing things on a daily basis to make things work. We implemented a help desk the Monday after spring break, and those guys never blinked, and dealt with uncounted number of parents and students on a daily basis, and they still are. We're not in the top 10 call group anymore for our campuses have taken that back over, but we still get a number of calls on a daily basis where they're able to help them get back online and get going again. And then our data team, seemed like every day we were throwing a new rule or a new challenge or some kind of change that we had to make from either the state or the county or something like that. And Belinda Newman, Sarah Partain, Sean Lee, Jacob Tilley, and Christina Stevenson just did it. It was, how can we fix it? How can we make this work? How can we get these kids in this group and move on? So I'm extremely blessed to have an amazing team that I get to work with on a daily basis, and for them to be able to do the kind of things that they did is just a testament to their work ethic and their heart for kids, because that's really what it came down to with this group. One of the things that we did, some of the things we learned in the spring were some of the things that maybe didn't work as well as we needed them to, or things that we could make efficiencies better. So we had projects planned, that were over the next year or so to upgrade this or replace that. And some of the things that bubbled to the top were our SSO. We've had an SSO for a couple of years. Most people didn't know about it or use it very much. And so as we got into the spring, we had a lot of usage of it, and it just wasn't working the way we needed it to. So we did an upgrade over the summer, and we have over 60 applications that are, you log on with your credentials, and you have access to pretty much everything you need on a daily basis. And that was our goal originally. But we just needed to take the step and redo it and get it up and running. And then we fully implemented a bunch of the applications that we had been talking about for a couple of years. And we're going to look at a couple of those things on the next couple of slides. We looked at a lot of interesting data in the spring and thought, wow, we've tripled what we've been doing the last couple of years. And then over the last 10 weeks or so, we've seen those numbers just eclipse that. One of the things that it shows is we're having about 65,000 logins a week on our single sign-on. You can't ask for more proof that we're using it and that it's working. We look at what our top 10 apps are. Canvas is the cornerstone of secondary instruction, and it is number one by a long shot. We look at the usage. Teams on last Wednesday had 11,390 participants. That's amazing for us. We were seeing the numbers on the left, these over here in the spring, and we were like, wow, that's 3 or 4 times what we were doing before. But then you look at the utilization we're getting now, and we're starting to see that, yeah, the participation's there. They're using the application we put in place. Just another view of it. And that just shows that we're using a lot of the Microsoft products the way we meant them to use. And then the other thing we look at is, what are they using them on? That's really important for us so that we can make sure we're pointing resources when we're troubleshooting, those kind of things. We're looking to see that the majority of the kids are using Windows devices, which typically are ours. And then, but we're still getting a lot of iOS usage, which is that purple group right here. So we can't abandon, the iPads, the iPhones, and those kind of things. And just looking at that number, that tells me that our iPad rollout is the majority of that 11,000 right there. So it's interesting to kind of peel back the data a little bit. And then this is our.
What was the third one? We don't have that one, do you?
Third one is Macs. A lot of those are, the family owns them. And then the last one is our Canvas utilization. And, the last couple of years we've been coming up here talking about, we've had 30% growth over the last 3 years. And then we had a big jump in the spring. And then just a snapshot of September was 43,356 participations. Our kids and our teachers are using the applications and we're participating in instruction. And that's been, really the amazing part of this. Instruction looks a lot different than it did this time last year. And one of the things that we're doing is we're piloting pieces and parts and cameras and microphones and those kind of things, trying to see if our teachers, if we can help them out, if we can make them more efficient, get them to move around, not be tethered to the podium and those kind of things. And then we're seeing instruction occurring in a lot of different ways in a lot of different places. And what I see that there is, 2 years ago, we couldn't have had all of those kids in the cafeteria because we couldn't have had that many devices online at the same time in that area. So the ability for us to keep improving our infrastructure through E-rate and some of those kind of things is what put us in position to have a lot of the successes that we're having right now. Along those same lines, very quietly during the spring and summer, we put in our new wide area network because our contracts were expiring. And this is part of the Region 11 consortium. So we got a lot better network for actually a lot less money than we were paying before. And the best part of this is that we control the network. It is bigger, faster, stronger than anything we've had, and it's going to allow us through our own hardware upgrades over the next several years to get it as big, fast, strong as we need it to do as we're growing, as we continue to grow and use our network. Kind of going fast, but please stop me if you have questions. This is the data center that Cleet Welch has been talking about over the last several months. And all I can say is we jumped in the 21st century finally with our data center. That is what a data center is supposed to look like. And I think a few of y'all have seen the data center we've been using for a while. That's not it. Our guys are moving into that right now. It's going to allow us to grow for years to come, and we can actually keep coming this direction with those cases if we need to. So that will allow us to do pretty much anything we need to for quite a while. The other piece, and I kind of got ahead of myself a few minutes ago about we added 300 wireless radios to our campuses to help with all the devices that we do come in. And just to refresh your memory, last spring I brought a proposal to y'all to take advantage of the bonus year that E-rate gave us, that 5th year that allowed us to get some additional equipment. That's the access points that we were able to get at a really, really good price because the E-rate program allowed us to do that, just to get the extra year in. So we were able to get all that installed knowing that we had so many devices that were about to be live and active on our network.
So how did the 300 data points, so the access points, are those just spread out throughout the district, or you
Yes.
look for spots that are
A lot of
weak
those,
Wi-Fi or no Wi-Fi?
yeah, all the above.
Okay.
So we have, and I've showed y'all over a period of time, some of our coverage map and our heat maps and those kind of things that our guys use. We added some to cafeterias, we added some to classrooms that didn't actually have them. They were sharing them, those kind of things. We looked at different patterns that we had back in early spring where we could go in and fill in some of the blanks. Then we replaced some of the older stuff that couldn't go as fast as the new stuff went.
Were these 300 all we could get, or was that a number you determined we needed to?
That was a number that we determined we needed.
Okay.
And we're trying to get them in a cycle so we can get so many every year, so we don't have that big jumbo 1 year replacement.
Change for me is that I'm in a gym watching a volleyball game and I see kids with laptops out because they're working between games and things like that. So we've had to cover some of those areas that weren't our priority before, and now that's a higher demand area just because kids are now using those constantly.
Yeah, we went and looked at all the areas that didn't used to be instructional areas and tried to address as many of those as we could. And we've opened up a lot of access outside of our building throughout the spring and summer even, so that they could have more access, playgrounds, just different parts of the parking lot, some of those kind of places. Because we saw activity in the spring where kids were at our building using our network, which is great. It was there, let's use it.
Sir, the data center is at the Hohenstein.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, will we expand this more? Do we have enough room to expand it there? Where is it located in the school?
It is what used to be the record storage room.
It's she said the Hollenstein, it's at the Halfley.
It's at the Halfley.
The second story of the Halfley.
Oh, okay, I always thought, okay.
Yeah.
We were able to move because we will have long-term records in the new administration building. And so Mr. Welch contracted with a record storage company to vacate that area. We already had a set area. You'll notice the floor is concrete. It's a heavier, more industrial area. It had to exist for the records area. And so that's a perfect spot for it. And also remember that backs up the one at Chisholm Trail High School. There's one there too. So if one goes down, the other one, they work in unison with one another. They're also on two different power grids. And so it's unlikely that both sets would be off at one time. So, and they're both backed up by, is it diesel?
The generator.
Generator, yeah. So it's really, I mean, it's something I don't even think about anymore. I mean, not that many years ago, you would have to think about data outages for a number of reasons. It really wasn't just the infrastructure, it was things beyond our control. But what he's done is he's contracted with groups that are more bulletproof and more dependable. And so our uptime, I don't know if you have a percentage off the top of your head, but I would imagine it's incredibly high.
I was trying to remember the last time, I don't even want to say it, that we were down.
Yeah.
And we built the network. We built the network to have more than one cut to take a campus down. And we built this to have redundant power, and then it can also work with our system at Chisholm Trail, because we've had a hard time doing upgrades over the last couple of months. We did an upgrade Sunday morning, and we were getting notifications that we need this, and it was like we needed a 45-minute window to do a software upgrade. We try to be real strategic, but then also know that we can't blink anymore. We can't be off on weekends or nights and those kind of things, because our folks are working around the clock and get what they need when they need it.
And the location, I guess, as we move more to the northwest, as we build Eagle Mountain High School, is this capable of handling that, or will we need one out? Yeah, there you go. I was looking at that.
So that yellow dotted line is how we're gonna create actually a second loop that's gonna bring in the new high school. So that'll actually help us really be redundant. So if something was to happen along Bailey Boswell, it has two different paths to get back around to, let's say, Highland Middle School. So, and we did that based on all of the growth that's going on, all the road construction, the new neighborhoods that are coming in and those kind of things, to try to guard against what everybody calls backhoe attenuation on a network. So those are the things that would take us a couple of days to try to get fixed if they really dug it up. Where this way, it's a couple of seconds and it reroutes, and then we can get it fixed while it's working, going the other direction.
But in terms of the need for a third data center, there's not a need for a
No.
third data center.
No,
So we can operate
especially
off
with
those two.
the virtualization and those kind of things that we're doing. We are moving away from having lots of boxes to now a lot of virtual servers. So we can do a lot more with less now. So, all right. One of the last pieces was just to bring out to speed on when we did the plan, we were taught this was our staffing plan was built on a 4-to-1 student ratio. We've exceeded that. Now we're right on top of 1-to-1. And so we're working through some of those items of how we need to have our staff support all of those devices and all those students. And so a couple of things that we already have underway is our ECTC students in the spring try to jump out ahead a little bit and get started with the Dell Student Support Program. And so they're finishing up their training right now. And they've started the last couple of weeks helping out with our high school depots, an hour, a couple of days a week just to get started. And we've already seen some help, some really great things from those kids. It's kids helping kids. And I can't wait for that to for them to really get their legs under them and get started doing that. Because our high school techs really have appreciated that a lot. And as they get more kids, then we can roll those down to the middle schools and help that also. But we'll probably bring this back to y'all down the road as we're going to try to support that. Current projects, y'all can see that really the big focus is still on the devices, whether it's teaching and learning with them or supporting them. For the latest thing that we've been working on is just reconciliation of the deployments and the data and the inventory. We've done a couple of deployments and a lot of hot swaps, and we're trying to catch up with where everything is and who has what, so that we can get a handle on it and start preparing for the spring and a new elementary and all those kind of things. So that is our last several months in a nutshell.
Thank you. We appreciate all the efforts and your staff that's had to do. It has to be such a huge switch from one line of thinking in February to now this line of thinking and where we've moved, not only spring, but now where we are now. So we appreciate those efforts and tell your staff thank you also. They've done a great job.
Thank you all for all the support.
A lot of it's the forward thinking. What year was that we sat in Dozier and, we went through all of the different devices and how the teachers were utilizing them? And, it was such you guys were so forward thinking and said that this is what we need. So I really appreciate the plans and that you continue that because, look what happened here and how it just fits so wonderfully well. So
Thank you.
that's a key piece there.
I think y'all helping us get through those goals is really what helped us be as successful and mobile as we were in the spring. Had we not had the 3 years of work up to that point, we wouldn't have been near as successful in the spring and especially this fall as we
I think
were.
even back to the start with the Aspire and everything you did over the last 10 years to get us, if we wouldn't have been doing all that work all along, we never would have been able to pull this off, I don't think. So kudos.
Well, I know Steve and I will recall 12 years ago, we were in the dark ages. on
Right, that was one of our
technology,
emphasis.
We were
Exactly.
definitely asking about wired and wireless, and you have just, I think of that time and now and how much you have brought this school forward, so I thank you for it.
Please pass that on to the staff.
Thank you.
Great job.
And don't let them give you a hard time, Dr. Parker, that was 20 minutes, so he was telling us he was gonna have a report.
I know.
It was 20 minutes.
Why we didn't try to do before dinner.
Thank you, Kurt.
Fully
Just kidding you.
Files now, why are you keeping paper files?
Well, we haven't converted to fully electronic yet.
Are you going to?
That's our plan. In fact, Mr. Welch, that's a project that he and Dr. Dawkins are working on right now. We don't have a timeline yet, but we can bring y'all some updates as we have that planned out. There's going to have to be a tremendous amount of transfer, and the question is about going to electronic records.
Yeah.
And that's something that is under discussion right now as we move into the administration complex to try to not move things we don't have to move.
Yeah,
and to make those
absolutely. I
conversions.
mean, the federal government, I'm doing
Yes.
electronic case files, so, I mean, we must be far behind if we're behind the federal government.
No comment.
No comment. All right, that concludes the reports. It brings us to routine monthly reports. Any questions on those? Hearing none, we'll now review the 2020 board planning calendar. Dr. Chadwell?
Yes, sir. This is on page 346 of your packet. Coming up to this next meeting, we'll have another quarterly demographic report. As y'all can drive around and see the new houses, things have not slowed down. They continue to progress, which is exciting, especially considering that some areas of the country are really, really struggling in that area, and we've continued to grow, which is very promising. Also, I want to highlight that we have the Aspire 2025 report. Dr. Parker and her group has been leading the development of that. I think some of y'all have actually participated too. We have some final meetings this week to, as we come forward for that as a report and later consideration for approval. So they've been doing some promising work, and just as Ms. Ring talked about, the original Aspire plan, Aspire 2022 plan, as we sat around where we were in 2011 and 12 in terms of technology and outlining the big vision of where we wanted to go, and doing that in some very challenging financial times at the time, and seeing where we are now. And so what I hope is in this 5-year plan that we see similar growth and things that will bring us forward. We also have a conduct public hearing for the first report, and you can see the items there for routine. I'd be happy to answer any questions that y'all have on any of these.
Is anything that has to do with the election, would that be in that earlier meeting? There's nothing in the regular board meeting?
Correct. There may have to be, that's a good point. We may have to add any kind of reorganization there.
Well, then we would swear in the new board
Yes.
members.
So we'll make those adjustments. We'll make those adjustments.
All right.
Because the other will be just.
So it's something probably you have to get from May or whenever we want to do it.
Yeah, correct. Those will be added.
Okay.
Good point. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on that? Seeing none, we go to the consent agenda for approval.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Donna to approve the consent agenda. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. Move to board president's announcements. Thank you again, Dr. Chadwell and leadership team, for what you've done for our students during these difficult times as they continue. I know at our place, we had some, I believe, some thank you cards. Anybody know? Anybody? Is that? Some people are circulating. Becky, these from you? Okay, thank you for those.
We're going to give them all to you, Steve, and we want you to write a
That's
personal
fine.
thank you
Give them
on
to me.
behalf
I
of the
love thank
board.
you notes, handwritten ones. What's that little goodie bag? I guess that was from you, Liz. And thank you.
Thank you for our administrative team, everybody, yes.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that. Dr. Chapel?
Yes, sir. We have a few items. This is on page 385. We do have our naming event coming this Thursday. Very excited to have the Jared Hardy Performing Arts Center naming event at 5:30 this Thursday. For the public, that's an invitation only, just due to COVID COVID-19, which limits our number of people that can participate. But I know in speaking with Carla, I saw her on Friday, Jared's wife, and they're incredibly excited about Thursday night and just looking forward to that event. We also, I mentioned just a few moments ago, the Aspire 2025 Action Plan presentations are on October the 30th. This is a Teams meeting, so if you'd like to Teams in to listen to any of those, just please let Dr. Parker know. She can get you an access, and you don't have to participate in any part of it you'd like, as little or as much as you would like. We also have one home district game this Friday. Saginaw High School has a homecoming game, 7 o'clock. And then also, of course, we have our Election Day coming up, and we also have the Terry Parish Band Hall naming event that's on November the 10th at Wayside Middle School, also restricted due to COVID-19. And I know that Terry, I saw him just several weeks ago, and he's very excited about that evening. So all the other items there are listed. Be happy to answer any questions. Oh, one other, November 18th, the NTAASB virtual meeting. If you would like to participate in that, please let Becky or I know so we can make sure you're registered. I forget what the topic was, but you recently received an email.
Legislation.
Legislation, okay. So that's coming up. So any questions on any of those items?
And the holiday open house, you've got down there as tentative.
Yes.
16th, so
Yes. I mean, it's just.
Do something virtual perhaps with the kids?
We thought about it. And that we're going to have to discuss what options we have. My concern is some of the virtual kinds of events are so poorly attended that I would hate for people to put so much effort into something that may only have a few dozen people listening to.
But it'd be something that somebody could watch, maybe opposed
Yes,
to the website.
exactly.
More practical.
Yes, but this has been a long-standing tradition, as y'all know, for a very, very long time, and the thought that we can't come together to enjoy one another down the holidays is really becoming real. As we look at how we're having to operate differently, and so, but we're going to have to make a decision next week on this.
But it coincides with what's going on in our whole area,
Yes.
with the state fair and the Fort Worth Stock Show and all these things, just, I think people have kind of resigned themselves until, the things get better.
Yes.
We don't like it, we don't want it because it's one of our favorite times of the year, but, just being safe.
No, I agree. That's it, sir.
Anything else? All right. Seeing there's no further business to come before this board, the chairman will entertain a motion to adjourn, and our senior board member has left, so who's second? Liz? Second? Adjourn.